Welcome back, everybody, to the 2018 Pokemon Video Game Regional Championships here in Costa Mesa. Yesterday, we had a little under 200 players face off. We cut down to our top 8, and we are ready to broadcast those matches right now.
Yeah. First match we have up, Groshans, who we saw in the last round using that very offensive Trick Room team with the Caracosta, the camera up. We saw all 4 attacks it used, no protect there. That nature power with Tapu Bulu to turn that into that sheer force, grassy terrain boosted energy ball. Very cool.
Yep, and he'll be facing off against Brandon Huang, who is a local player from the, I believe, San Diego area. I don't know too much about his accomplishments, but, it's always great to see a player, that you may not have heard of on stream here in the top cut. Making it to the top cut now at a regional championship is actually very difficult. These players had to play through 8 rounds yesterday. They had to pretty much try to guarantee that they only had 1 loss.
Yeah, 7 wins in 8 rounds. That's tough to do.
Yeah. And, of course, we go back to it. Groshans last night in the last round kind of sealed the deal with that Nature Power camera. He does have a Vivian on team, but it just didn't come into play. So maybe it will come out today.
Yeah, maybe this time.
Yeah. I mean, Len, are you excited? There's a lot of championship points on the line. Of course, there's also cash prizes on the line as well. Well, all these players have already earned that, right?
Yeah.
It's just they're playing for more now.
More?
Yeah. Of course, you always want to gather as many championship points in, the early parts of the season. I know now we're towards the middling parts of the season, but you always want to try to grab championship points whenever you can. You never want to be that person that whiffs a World's invite by maybe 1, 2, 3 championship points. So you just got to try to grab as many as possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyways, Len, tell me about this matchup right now.
Well, we haven't actually seen Brandon on stream yet, but he's also got a Trick Room team. Also featuring a camera up, also featuring a water Trick Room attacker with liquidation, except it's Araquanid instead of Caracosta.
Very similar team builds here. Brandon will be running a team of Tapu Bulu, Landorus, Therian, Camerupt, Tapu Lele, Araquanid, and Cresselia. Of course, Groshans running a very similar core of Pokemon. He does have the Tapu Bulu, he does have the Camerupt. He has the Caracosta,
which is somewhat similar to the Araquanid. Provides the same sort of offense.
Vivian over the Landorus Therian, and of course Porygon 2 was his Trick Room setter. I don't remember what Groshans' 6 Pokemon exactly was.
Mimikyu also is a
yes.
secondary Trick Room setter.
You're right.
So Mike's going to be much more hard on having the Trick Room. He has less of these middling speed Pokemon like Landorus and Tapu Lele. And having the 2 setters compared to just that one Cresselia on the other side, and Mimikyu, one of those Pokemon that is a very dedicated Trick Room setter when it wants to be. So I'd expect that in this kind of almost mirror match, it's going to be Mike who's relying more on having the Trick Room up, and it's going to be Brandon who's willing to play outside of Trick Room as much as he can and take advantage of things like that Tapu Lele.
Yep, and even that Landorus Therian as well to put on a lot of pressure. It can hit the Camerupt, it can hit the Caracosta as well, but one thing that we know is that Caracosta, it has a lot of access to a lot of things, right?
Yeah, possibly has that weakness policy. We've seen that on a lot of Caracosta. Would give it a +2 attack boost as soon as it took that Earthquake. Combining that with the Solid Rock and Camerupt, that maybe makes it a little harder to go after it immediately before you Mega Evolve. Earthquake can be a risky thing.
It looks like now we're getting ready to jump into team preview between these 2 players. We've already mentioned the teams. We've already mentioned the matchup. Again, it's really going to come down to who's going to be functioning in Trick Room and who would rather be functioning in Trick Room, really. It looks like, you're right, Brandon is not going to want to be functioning in Trick Room because he has those 2 attackers outside that can function outside. Landorus there, and of course, it can also hit that Vivian if Mike decides that that's good in this matchup. But again, the only thing that it can really do is go for a possible powder.
But stopping those Camerupt eruptions is pretty valuable. That is the Mega on the other side. That's the only Pokemon out there that will be Mega Evolving. And so stopping those eruptions, maybe keeping something like your Tapu Bulu safe, using that powder, could be really valuable.
Yep, and now the players are ready to get underway here. Here we go, the first game of the top 8 at this regional championships here in Costa Mesa between Groshans and Brandon Huang. And wow, all right. Both players now getting ready to send out their Pokemon. Again, we already saw Groshans yesterday trying to add to more of his local resume. Doesn't have that many strong regional finishes, and it looks like Brandon's going to lead double Psychic types with Cresselia and Tapu Lele, as Mike Groshans leads with Vivillon and Porygon 2. So Vivillon actually makes an appearance here.
Yeah, already straight away on the field. Tapu Lele is definitely the biggest piece of offense out here. Both Porygon 2 and Vivillon more support Pokemon. Obviously, Cresselia also support on the other side. So it's going to be Tapu Lele looking to get the game started with some big offense. Definitely capable of 2-hit catering that Vivillon through the Focus Sash it likely has. And even putting out big damage on a Porygon 2, depending on how it's trained, if it has something like that Psychium Z that really could allow a lot of damage.
Cresselia switches out, going to go straight into Trick Room right here, maybe expecting, or sorry, Brandon's going into his Trick Room mode here, going to send in the Camera Up as Vivillon actually protects itself, which could be okay as Tapu Lele goes for a taunt into that Vivillon, maybe scared that Vivillon was going to go ahead and put things to sleep, as Porygon 2 now uses Shadow Ball, going to hit that Tapu Lele for super effective damage, and that's a cool tech move that I haven't seen too much on Porygon 2 before, but it does so much because it hits Aegislash and these Tapu Leles in even Cresselia's.
Yeah, it just provides another sort of coverage. You look at Porygon 2, it's never going to be using that same type of attack boosted, or very rarely going to be using that same type of attack boosted normal type, so you're looking at what coverage you can get. Often it's Ice Beam and Thunderbolt that are chosen, but we do see Shadow Ball sometimes if other things are more valuable. Camera Up hits the field, maybe trying to look to take advantage of a Trick Room. If you had seen Porygon 2 Trick Room plus Vivillon allow itself to be taunted so you couldn't powder on the next turn, those eruptions would start to look very strong. Instead, Porygon 2 doesn't Trick Room, so Camera Up is going to stay the slowest thing out there, and then Vivillon protects itself, doesn't get taunted, can still powder if it wants to this turn.
Porygon 2 on Mike's side switches out, going to send in Tapu Bulu, which could be fairly dangerous, but actually the Vivillon can provide powder support here to allow that Tapu Bulu to switch in just a little bit easier. Camera Up is going to go ahead and Mega Evolve here, going to get that sheer force ability that boosts its attacks so much if it has a secondary effect. We saw it a lot yesterday with those nature powers, of course, Heat Wave and even Flamethrowers as well. Vivillon now goes for the powder. Did Camera Up actually go for a fire type attack? Tapu Lele using taunt here, going to shut down Vivillon and its powder based moves as Camera goes for a Heat Wave, but it is instead going to hit itself because of that powder, so we just saw that on stream for the first time probably ever that a powder activated like that.
Yeah, managed to stop that Heat Wave and deal some recoil damage back to Camera Up. The thing now, though, is that Vivillon is taunted, won't be able to powder on the next turn, and you have 2 fire-weak Pokemon in against Camera Up. You've got to get a lot of damage down quickly on that Camera Up, try to prevent it from getting that Heat Wave off, because if it does, that will be absolutely massive.
Yeah, and of course, one of the best switches in for Mike Groshans could possibly be that Camera Up or even the
Caracosta, which 4 times resists those fire attacks. We could also just maybe see enough damage from Tapu Bulu and Vivillon together to KO this Camera Up and not really worry about what fire attacks are coming out. Both should be faster than the Camera Up, and Tapu Lele shouldn't be able to get a KO here.
Tapu Lele now switches out, not going to want to stay in. Cresselia comes back in instead. Yeah, so just trying to get a little bit better position. Camera Up actually protecting itself, even though it could have the opportunity to go for a fire type attack easily. But Tapu Bulu just staying in the face of danger, going for a bulk up here to set up against this Camera Up. Woodhammer will still do a lot of damage as Vivillon actually goes for an Endeavor, and that now reveals how much hit points Vivillon actually does have at 140 at full health.
Yeah, it's interesting when those full health Endeavors come out. That sets the Pokemon who takes the Endeavor's HP to whatever Pokemon used Endeavor's HP. Often you're seeing it because a Pokemon is at 1 HP, maybe just survives an attack with a Focus Sash, and if it's something else at 1 HP. Here we see it putting Cresselia at 140 HP. That Tapu Bulu does get the bulk up and is going to be an even bigger threat to that Camera Up now. It's going to be putting out so much damage. It'll be interesting. Maybe Brandon does need to get up Trick Room himself now and trying to start taking advantage of Camera Up, of this fire attacks it has.
Vivillon switches out. Porygon 2 going to come right back in. Vivillon is going to be able to save itself for later on to possibly go for Endeavors or even go for more powders to try to deal with that Camera if it still is on the field. But the Woodhammer from Tapu Bulu hits that Cresselia, gets a big knockout right there. Going to take away one of the stronger support Pokemon on Brandon's team as Camera uses Heat Wave here. Tapu Bulu actually avoids it. That's big. That's a big avoid right there.
Yeah, I think Mike was calling a switch on that Camera Up, expecting switch plus Trick Room, and instead tried to just get the KO on Cresselia. He should have been punished for it with a Heat Wave and landing and doing massive damage to that Tapu Bulu, but instead it misses, and that +1 attack, +1 defense Tapu Bulu stays on the field, going to continue to threaten so much damage. Does lose its Grassy Terrain here, though. Tapu
Lele comes right back in. Of course, now that Psychic is going to be doing a good amount of damage to either of those Pokemon, even if it's carrying the Z move as well. You know, that's going to be doing huge damage to that Porygon 2. Might even be within range to get that KO.
Yeah, but before you got your Porygon 2, you've got to deal with this Tapu Bulu. And it'll be interesting to see how much a Psychic can do there.
Tapu Bulu using Protect, not going to want to get KO'd by a Psychic, as the Psychic does actually hit in that slot. Porygon 2 using Shadow Ball, going to connect on that Tapu Lele, but it's not going to be enough to get the KO. It will be close. It actually does. So that is a roll right there to be able to get the higher roll on this one to get the KO, as Cameron goes for a Heat Wave in that Tapu Bulu Protect. And again, that Heat Wave miss from earlier is so big because that Tapu Bulu is now exerting a lot of pressure. It does have one bulk up, so a Wood Hammer will still do a lot of damage to that Cameron as well. Now Arachninid has to hit the field, and of course Arachninid not functioning in Trick Room won't be really that threatening, but it does resist. Well, sorry, it doesn't resist, but it can kind of chip away at that Tapu Bulu, but it already does have one bulk up.
Yeah, it's going to mean that those physical attacks do even less damage to Tapu Bulu. We've already seen Mike take a 4-2 lead here. We talked about maybe before the game that he was going to be more reliant on the Trick Room. Instead, the script has been flipped. The slow Pokemon have been on Brandon's side.
Tapu Bulu using Wood Hammer here, hitting that camera outside of terrain actually with a one bulk up boost is enough to get the KO, so that's going to be good information. So if that Grassy terrain is up, that Tapu Bulu should still be able to KO that camera from that range, as the Thunderbolt from Porygon 2 comes out, hits the Arachnid, as Arachnid retaliates with a Liquidation, going to get the KO on that Porygon 2.
Yeah, it gets the first KO of the game, but now you've got Arachnid already shown to be slower than Tapu Bulu, going to be having to take a +1 Wood Hammer next turn, along with whatever this Vivillon does. Brandon's got to be looking forward to Game 2, trying to figure out how he can change his game plan, figure out a better way to handle this matchup. We talked before about how he has these Pokemon that can play better outside of Trick Room. Maybe he needs to try to take advantage of that, or if he's going to have these two really slow Pokemon in Camerupt and Arachnid, needs to go ahead and focus on getting Trick Room set up and trying to take advantage of it there.
All right, now going into Game 2 between Brandon Huang and Mike Groshans. Mike Groshans, of course, I think he controlled that game really well. Of course, that Heat Wave miss on the Tapu Bulu was huge, because that was a big threat that just remained on the field and was able to get an additional KO with that Wood Hammer.
Yeah, well, additional KO and so much pressure. The KO onto Tapu Lele was because Tapu Lele was so focused on Tapu Bulu, it just attacked into a Protect and then got KO'd. And that made all the difference. If Tapu Bulu goes off the field, then you start looking at Brandon exerting pressure, having momentum. And so maybe Brandon just thinks about that turn, thinks, I can achieve what I want in this game if things go my way, if I don't miss Heat Waves.
Oh boy. I mean, I remember last night I put that smart money on Vivillon, and it looks like it's paying off right now, Len.
Yeah, I got that powder off.
Yeah.
Gave Bulu the chance to set up. Gave Bulu the chance to switch in on the same turn as Camerupt, then set up, then go on the offensive. Something that can rarely happen.
Yeah, and maybe not sure exactly if a lot of players know the mechanics behind powder, but Vivillon, all it has to do is just use powder, and then nobody can use fire-type attacks, and the best part is it's actually priority.
Yeah, you don't even have to be faster. So once Trick Room is up, even though Vivillon is a fairly fast Pokemon, you can still get those powders off.
I think you still have to watch out if you have your own camera in there. You can't powder because at that point that's actually going to be detrimental to yourself. It looks like now Brandon already has made his adjustments. Now Mike finally locking in his adjustments. If you're a winner here in one of these best-of-3 sets and you win the first game, you always kind of have to think to yourself, is what I'm doing working? Is it going to be able to work if my opponent makes any adjustments? And you have to try to kind of predict what other adjustments my opponent can possibly make. It's kind of like a very meta thing to do, right? Like, you got to try to plan ahead a little bit.
You don't want to get complacent with winning the first game and immediately see that Michael is not and Mimikyu's hitting the field.
Tapu Lele and Cresselia are the same leads for Brandon here as Vivillon and Mimikyu. So now Michael kind of just changing up his ability to set up Trick Room. Vivillon comes out, of course, has access to a lot of moves. No powder is going to come out here. Does have to watch out for that taunt, though.
Yeah, Vivillon not getting taunted on the first turn was really valuable for Mike. Needs to now know about that taunt and be considering if he wants to allow it on Vivillon, if he wants to just switch it out, but he sees the Rage Powder that taunt over.
Vivillon now using Rage Powder, going to draw the attention away. Tapu Lele, however, bypassing that with a spread move in that Dazzling Gleam. It is going to go ahead and do a lot of damage to Vivillon and, of course, bust that disguise that Mimikyu enjoys hiding behind. Mimikyu now using Taunt here. Going to go ahead and reveal that. Going to go ahead and hit that Cresselia with Taunt and make sure that it cannot use Trick Room.
Yeah, Mimikyu, they're not trying to set up Trick Room, but instead stop the Trick Room setup. Taunting Cresselia, preventing the Trick Room. Dazzling Gleam does come out instead of Taunt, and that's really valuable for Brandon, because the next Dazzling Gleam will KO Vivian, along with doing good damage to that Mimikyu's disguise is now broken. I wouldn't be surprised to see Cresselia leave the field. Now that it's taunted, it's not nearly as valuable. It could start trying to go for some damage, but depending on how many support moves it carries, may not have any great options here.
Yeah, and man, that Tapu Lele is in pretty good position right now. You know, maybe that Vivian was hoping that Tapu Lele would go for maybe a Psychic or maybe even a Moonblast to be able to break that or bring it down to a lot lower health. You know, a lot of Vivians, since they're so frail, actually opt to carry that Focus Sash. Araquanid is going to take the field now over that Cresselia. Again, this Araquanid is not functioning in Trick Room as Vivian protects itself. Tapu Lele using Dazzling Gleam right now. Going to go ahead and hit into that Vivian Protect as it does very minimal damage to that Mimikyu. And here comes the Let's Snuggle Forever from that Mimikyu. The new Z move introduced in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon as, well, the Mimikyu wants to just snuggle.
Yeah, it wants to do a bunch of Fairy-type damage here and try to get the KO on Tapu Lele, I would expect. Yeah, Araquanid switches in, not under Trick Room like Brendan would have liked, but still comes on the field and exerts some pressure. Maybe getting the KO on Mimikyu with Liquidation if it gets a chance. Has to watch out for Will-O-Wisp burns if it didn't have that water bubble. And so instead, fairly safe to just go out for big damage here. Would have maybe have to worry about Hurricane, but we've seen a lot of attacks already from Vivian.
That does so much damage and gets a one-hit KO on that Tapu Lele. So a big threat is actually removed from the field on Brandon's side to be able to bypass that Rage Powder from Vivian. And now Vivian will probably be able to just go for another Endeavor and just whittle away at something here. So that Cresselia seems like a pretty good target because Cresselia often do not carry Protect.
Yeah, but you may just end up triggering the berry, something that isn't always great to do with your Endeavor. Maybe if Araquanid doesn't have the berry, that's also would be a good target, especially if you can just combine that with something like a Play Rough from Mimikyu and get the KO there. But yeah, Vivian protecting itself, managing to outlast that Tapu Lele, and so now is the fastest thing on the field. We'll have a chance to get that Endeavor off. Otherwise, it would have just been KO'd by the Dazzling Gleam before it moved.
Yeah, and that's, wow, that's a cool tech move to see on Vivian. You know, a lot of players, if they do build a Vivian set, you know, Sleep Powder is also a very strong option on Vivian as well.
Hurricane is a great option.
Hurricane is a good option as well. And here comes the Endeavor. Going to go ahead and hit that Cresselia. Going to go ahead and bring it down to 28 hit points. No berry activated as Mimikyu using Taunt here. Going to go ahead and shut down that Cresselia from setting up again. It looks like a Hydro Vortex is going to be coming out from this Araquanid right here. Going to try to do massive amounts of damage. Probably headed towards that Mimikyu to get that KO. Kind of a waste if it lands into that Vivian. Already so heavily damaged.
Yeah, I think maybe Michael expected the berry to be activated in that Endeavor, otherwise he could have just combined with a Play Rough and KO'd Cresselia instead of taunting it to try to prevent Trick Room from going up. We'll have to see if Brandon again tried to use Trick Room and will get blocked by taunt.
Or is Brandon just going to go on the offensive and get the KO? But no, it's actually Trick Room again, so that Vivian, that Mimikyu taunt is just paying off so well.
Yeah. We do see another KO, 2 Z moves, 2 KOs so far in this game.
Yeah, and right now, this Vivian is free to go for yet another Endeavor.
Yeah, I've got to get rid of it at some point, even at low health. Vivian's a big threat. Tapu Bulu's hit the field and does set up that grassy terrain, going to be threatening giant Wood Hammers against Araquanid. But Vivian's only offensive move is Endeavor. Won't actually be able to KO that Cresselia despite being at such low health.
Yep, we've seen all 4 moves. We've seen the Endeavor, Powder, Rage Powder, and Protect. Tapu Bulu going for that Wood Hammer. Just going to go ahead and get the KO on that Cresselia. You know, that Tapu Bulu does have a decent matchup against that Araquanid anyways, as Vivian goes for an Endeavor again. Going to hit in that Araquanid slot and bring it down to 28 hit points as Araquanid finally gets the KO on that Vivian, but the damage has been dealt by that Vivian.
Yeah, 2 massive Endeavors, bringing Araquanid and Cresselia so low. Brendan finally says that's got to go. I can't take any more Endeavors, and so Vivian gets knocked out. Yep.
The Grassy Train does do some residual healing back to all the Pokemon. It looks like Mike still has 1 Pokemon. It is going to be a Porygon 2, so Mike went with a double Trick Room setup mode as Brandon goes ahead and sends in the camera. But again, with that Grassy Terrain up, it's going to be doing a lot of damage to that camera up anyways.
Yeah, it should be the same damage as the +1 Wood Hammer in Psychic Terrain that we saw in the last game, which was a 1-hit KO. So I'd expect that to happen again.
Well, actually, it was slightly damaged from the powder.
Yeah, slightly damaged from the powder. Maybe there's a chance it survives there.
Camera up, gonna Mega Evolve here. No point in just staying in its non-Mega form. Gonna try to get that sheer, well, not try, but it is gonna get that sheer force ability and also boost its stats a little bit as Tapu Bulu using Wood Hammer now. It's gonna be a big hit. Is it gonna be enough to get the KO? Camera hangs on to 8 points.
HP.
And now Porygon 2 going for a Thunderbolt, gonna hit into that Araquanid, gets the KO, but now this camera can actually go for some attacks. It's not going to matter too much, though, because that Porygon 2 is going to be able to outspeed and go for a Shadow Ball in that camera up slot as the Heat Wave connects on Tapu Bulu and Porygon 2, bringing Porygon 2 down to 50% with a critical hit. But that should do it. Mike Groshans is looking like he's going to move on to the top 4.
Yeah, there should be no way Porygon 2 misses this Shadow Ball to KO camera up, so going to be moving on to top 4 with this really big aggressive Trick Room team. In this game, this match, we never saw him set up Trick Room. Managed to play aggressively without it, using things like that Endeavor, just go out on the offensive quickly, using the bulk up from Tapu Bulu to immediately go out on the offensive. Camera Up going to be protecting itself here, just looking for grassy terrain health. If you get enough turns of grassy terrain, maybe you get yourself out of Shadow Ball KO range and try to turn this game around.
Yeah, you're going to have to go for a couple more protects right here if you want to try to even have a fighting chance against Porygon 2. But again, not... I mean, we said it yesterday. Oh, no, the protect fails right there, and Porygon 2 goes for a Shadow Ball. That should do it. It looks like Mike Groshans has punches taken to the top 4 here at the Costa Mesa Regional Championships.
Yeah, really great match there. Wins in 2 quick games, just going so offensively, so quickly, looking for big KOs. We saw that Mimikyu Z move get a big KO. We saw Tapu Bulu Wood Hammers come out and do so much damage. And, of course, those 2 Endeavors to do like 90% to both Cresselia and Araquanid is massive.
I mean... When you think of a Vion, you don't really think too much of an offense, but you think of a kind of a support role. We saw it has access to Rage Powder. We saw it has access to Powder. We saw it has access to Sleep Powder. It loves its Powder-based moves. But then the fact that you also have Endeavor, and it's a frail Pokemon, you can most likely will be hitting for a lot of damage if you can get into Endeavor range.
Yeah. Endeavor's often a great option for those support Pokemon who still want to have a way to contribute offensively to the team. Once they get down to Focus Sash or just take some damage in the meantime, they can do a lot of damage.
Yeah. Anyways, that was a great, well-played set, but there's so much more action to come here from the Costa Mesa Regional Championships. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break, but when we come back, more action here from the top 8 of the Costa Mesa Regional Championships.